for any government and especially for Indian government developing countries like us. Developed nations में जहाँ पर है ही नहीं इनकम टैक्स पर्टिकुलर but then आप अगर डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज की बात करो वहाँ पर सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू फॉर गवर्नमेंट इज टैक्स. तो अगर ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आपको आराम से you can answer that. Right? Is the screen visible?
Good morning, everyone. A quick heads up on whether you're able to see the screen, hear me, and see me. Thank you. Thank you so much for the confirmation. All right, welcome to the revision lecture of Strategic Business Leader. It is going to be kind of a marathon revision lecture that I like to call it. It's going to be of 10 hours, like you all know. It is going to be in this week, same time for consecutive 5 days. And it is going to be very, very useful for everyone who is attempting this paper in this attempt or maybe the next, but most useful for the people who are attempting this paper in June, right? So out of the 15 of y'all, can I know who all are appearing for the June attempt? Is it everyone out here? Great, great. Okay. Perfect. I think most of I think everyone is attempting in this attempt. So that's lovely, right? So firstly, I'm going to start with what you can expect from the 10 hours that we are going to have in the coming week. What you should not expect and what are we basically going to be covering in the coming 10 hours, right? I think most of you all know me. Do I need to give an introduction? Is there anyone who doesn't know me? I think I've taught a lot of y'all. Okay, so there are a few people, okay, a few people who do not know me. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction. Like you all can see on the screen, my name is Mayurika Dasani. I am a chartered accountant by profession, and teaching is my passion. And I really like, you know, being a part of, you know, like you all, when you go ahead and you all will clear the SBL paper and hopefully get back to me saying that we did clear the paper, that gives me a lot of happiness. And when, you know, the lectures were offline, and when I could see the happiness of my students understanding the concepts and everything, that would give me a lot of happiness. So that is there. I teach audit and assurance, strategic business leader, and advanced audit and assurance. Right, these are my forte subjects, and then you know, off and on, I take up other subjects as well. And y'all are in safe hands. What I expect you all to do is attend all the 5 sessions without fail, because in one session itself, since it's only 10 hours and we all are revising, we are not learning anything from the scratch. That means in every session, we are going to be covering a lot, right? So for you all to be able to benefit the maximum from these sessions, I need you all to attend the sessions mandatorily. Right, so yeah, that was a little bit about me. I am, guys, please see that you're muted. Yeah, and yeah, I'm based out of Pune, and I travel across India for taking lectures for you all, which I have not been doing for the past 1 year, 1.5 years. It's been going like that, but it is how it is. So yeah, that's about me. And now we are going to be talking about what we can expect from these 10 hours, right? So first, let's talk about what you should not expect. You should not expect every concept being taught. So there is a difference between concepts being taught and concepts being revised. I will try to revise the maximum concepts, but I'll not be teaching any concepts unless and until you ask questions. For example, if you tell me that I need some clarity on the Mendelow's model, then I will go ahead and explain that particular model in detail. But from, you know, since the time is limited, I will not be teaching all the models because that has been done in your 30 hours training. So this 10 hours training is assuming that you have done those 30 hours before. And since you are obviously going to give the paper within the next 15 days, it is expected that you will not expect me to teach the models again, right? So that is not going to happen. Of course, I'm going to take up the important parts and the important parts of the entire 24 chapters, try and cover as much as I can, revise as much as I can. So how I have planned is that for the initial, like today and tomorrow, we will be revising the concepts thoroughly. Okay, we'll be going through the different models. It will be very nice if the class can be interactive, right? So that because there'll be a lot of information that I'll be throwing your way, if you are not interactive, then it might just seem like a lot. And if you're constantly interacting, it will be revision in real terms, right? So at this point in time, honestly, more than me speaking, beneficial would be if you guys speak more, because you have to write the paper in the next 15 days, not me. So I can come explain everything, but if you are not able to explain those concepts, then it is not helping either of us, right? So I really expect this class to be as interactive as possible. You all can use the chat option that you have. You all can raise your hands. That option is available to you. You all can unmute yourself and also talk. Whatever feels fit, please do that, but just a humble request that keep interacting, right? And while I was explaining what you can't expect, I also explained what you can expect. That is a quick revision of all the concepts along with practice of the questions, right? So at this point in time, I'll be focusing more on the questions, the question styles that are asked in the exam, because at this point in time, we should be ready for that, right? What else can you expect? You can also expect me to tell you what exactly is to be done for the remaining days that you have, right? So what should be your prep strategy? What all should you definitely do? What all should you not do? All these kind of things you can definitely expect. You can expect me to resolve all your queries, right? Even if that takes me to stay back, or us to stay back after the 2 hours and resolve your queries, that is going to happen. But you have to be vocal about it. If you've not understood certain concepts, you have to come up and tell me that we've not understood this. Can you, or any particular question that you need my help with, right? So that I'm ready to do. At the end of each session, I'll keep a 10 minutes Q&A, and that can extend, right? And people who have doubts can stay back, and people who are done can leave the session. So that is actually the plan that is there in my head. And hopefully you all will have a lot to take away, and this is going to really help you in your June exams, right? So let's get started on this note. Okay. Now, this is something we all know, a quick revision of what the paper pattern is like. There are 100 marks that you have to attempt in 4 hours, right? Now, 100 marks are split into two categories. You have 80 marks and 20 marks. So you will be tested on your technical skills for 80% of the on the basis of how you attempt these 80 marks. That is the way you answer these 80 marks, right? Just a quick heads up, guys. On the screen, it's saying my internet connection is unstable. Are you all able to hear me clearly?
Your voice is lagging sometimes.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Just a second, guys. Give me a minute. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so like we were saying, you have to be very, very careful of the professional skills marks. We'll be talking about how to score these marks, and trust me, there is a big difference between how you are going to answer, how you have been answering the papers till now, and how you're going to be answering this particular paper. Just wanted to know, is this the first professional level paper that you are writing, or have you given maybe SBR, AFM, or APM, or AAA, anything like that before?
The first, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So only one person is saying it's the last paper that she's giving. All of y'all are giving the first paper. Trust me, there is a big difference in the way you have been answering your F level papers also, and how you're going to be answering this particular paper also. Going to talk about it in detail, right? But this breakup we already know that you are going to attempt the paper of only 80 marks, right? So 20 marks are silent. That is, you do not write anything for these 20 marks. These 20 marks you will get on the basis of how you answer the 80 marks. Okay, we will talk about that in detail. You know, it entails a lot of things, like whether your answer is logically structured or not, whether you have assumed the role that was given to you or not, whether you have followed the format or not. We are going to do all those things today itself. So today's lecture is about the overview, and then we are going to obviously start with the discussion also, but it is mostly going to be how to attempt the paper, what are the mistakes that you cannot be making at this particular point in time, you know, how to fetch more marks, etc. So more than technical, it is going to be on the professional skills as on today. And then this is one paper that is of 4 hours. Probably, guys, this is the first paper that you would be attempting that is more than 3 hours. So till now, we've been giving 100 marks, 3 hours. That is how we've been functioning from childhood, right? But now this is the first paper that is 4 hours. So this itself speaks volumes of the difference that it is going to bring in, right? From whatever we've done till now and to what we are going to do in the June attempt. And you should be mentally prepared for this, right? Now, giving a 4-hour paper itself can be tiring, right? So it is a recommendation, although I'm going to tell you when I said that I'm going to tell you, you know, what all I'm expecting you to do in the next 15 days, but it is one of the pointers that I really want you to sit for at least 2 mock tests. I'm saying at least 2 mock tests. And that has to be in an exam-like scenario. So you have to, you know, sit like you would sit in an exam, in an online exam, in a different room, and sit for those 4 hours with the timer on and attempt that paper. Trust me, it is really going to help you on that day, because sitting at a stretch in front of the computer for 4 hours is a task. And that is something that we really need to practice, right? So at this point in time, what I also want you to understand that it is not just your technical knowledge that is going to be tested in those 4 hours. It is going to be mentally and physically straining also, because you're going to be sitting at one place for 4 hours. So you don't just have to prepare yourself technically, you also have to prepare yourself physically, mentally for those 4 hours, right? So this is a major mistake that students make, that you all keep, you know, going through the exam kit and everything till the last day. While that is just one, it is a major part of your preparation, but that is one aspect of your preparation. You also have to look at other things and make sure that you are 100% ready on the D-Day. Right? So for these 4 hours, you have to practice at least 2 mock papers in exam-like scenario. I do not care. You do not study anything on the particular day that you're giving the mock test. I'm fine with that. So you just give those 4 hours, and that will be straining. You don't study anything else. That is fine. But you have to give the mock paper, right? So how you're going to break down those 4 hours, I've just mentioned it here. The 40 to 60 minutes are going to be your reading and planning time. right? As you all know, the length of the SBL paper is usually 12 to 16 pages, right? And to read that properly, to make sense out of that text, you need 40 to 60 minutes. Our target is obviously going to be 40 minutes, right? So when you use 40 minutes for your reading, the remaining 200 you're going to use for actually attempting the paper and revising the paper, seeing if you've missed anything and if you want to add anything, right? So basically you get 200 minutes for 80 marks because you do not have to attempt anything for these 20 marks. So technically you get 2.5 minutes per mark, which is more than enough, which is crazily enough for clearing this paper, for scoring at least 50 out of 100 marks, right? So firstly, you have to be confident that you can do this, and only then we are going to be talking about the technical skills, right? So this is your last leg, right? Whatever you had to prepare, you have prepared hopefully by now. And these 15 days, it is the last leg that you're going to run. So what are the things to remember for the last leg? Okay. Just take 30 seconds, read whatever is there on the slide, take 30 seconds, absorb that, and then we can talk. So I'm going to stay silent for 30 seconds, read, absorb. So this is very, very important at this point in time, you know, and this is what I want all 15, 16 of y'all to remember. Okay. Now, I am okay with you not knowing a particular concept. I'm okay with you not understanding a particular model. All that is completely okay. But losing your confidence or losing your motivation is the last thing that I want in this particular time, right? All you have to do, see, whatever efforts you had to put, you have put. Now, these last 15 days, firstly, do not overstretch yourself and do not work more than required. I see people working for 13, 14 hours. I mean, studying for 13, 14 hours, 15 days before the paper. I do not believe in that, and I would strictly tell you to not do that. You do not want to burn yourself out on the last day. And this is honestly not that kind of a paper also, where you are required to memorize some concepts and vomit it out on the paper. No. You are supposed to use your acumen. You're supposed to use that logic. You're supposed to have some fresh ideas that you can bring to the table on that particular day. And if you burn yourself out in the last leg, then on that particular day, you will not have a fresh mind. You will be overloaded with unnecessary information that is not going to help you on that particular day. So if at all you all are thinking that, oh, the exams are approaching, now I'll study 12 hours, 13 hours, don't do that. I think a good, stretch would be maybe 4 to 5 hours every day. I don't think anything more than that is required at this point in time. Before this, yes, I would tell you that, study 10 hours, 11 hours, whatever. But as on today and from now on, if you're attempting the June paper, at best 6 hours. Please do not stretch more than that. And, invest your time in activities that give you peace, that keep you happy, and that can be anything. That can be running, that can be walking, anything that makes you happy, cooking, etc. Do that. Okay. Keep your motivation levels high. Now, why am I saying that? Honestly, even though SBL paper is a professional paper, I really mean it when I say it, that it is easier. If you get the trick, it is easier than your F level papers also that you have already cleared. So if you attempt the paper in the right manner, honestly, it is easier than your F level papers as well. So if as on today also you feel that your preparation is not that great, or you have not studied the study material completely, you've not solved all the exam kit questions, it's okay. You are not supposed, it is not like if you do all the questions you will clear the paper. If you don't do, there is no direct correlation in that, right? The idea is to understand how the paper is supposed to be answered. If you've understood that, if you give 2-3 marks around that, you are good to go. You are not supposed to learn everything that is given in those 24 chapters. They will not ask you what is the BCG matrix, what is the Mendelow's model. Never is it going to be like that. So you don't have to invest your energy where it is not going to give you the benefits, right? So I'm telling you, and trust me on this, if you feel that your preparation is not great, even then it is very easy to clear this paper just by knowing what to do in the paper, right? Scoring 50 on 100, it is in SBL, it is, trust me, very, very easy. And you have to count on me in this scenario, right? Then, during the exam prep, I hear from a lot of students that, ma'am, if we miss 1 day of studies or 2 days of studies, then then I keep thinking about what time I've wasted, and it becomes very difficult to get, to pick up and, come back to track. But just that if you happen to take a break, if let's say it was Sunday yesterday, maybe someone did not study a word yesterday, please do not beat yourself to that. It's completely fine. It is an exam. It is not life and death, honestly, and do not treat it like one. If you wasted the time, please do not say you have really wasted the time. You have kind of re-energized yourself, and today you're ready to take up the new challenge that is thrown at your way, right? So when I say that I want you all to be prepared technically for the paper, this is what I mean when I say I want you all to be prepared mentally for the paper also. What we fail to do when we are preparing for professional papers is we just keep studying like a blind person. We do not prepare ourselves in entirety. But this is very important to keep your mental level, to keep your minds at peace right now, right? And I also know that with the pandemic, and this time with the second wave, things have gone haywire, right? So our own families or people that we are very close to, they are suffering, they have suffered. It might be difficult times for everyone. So please do not lose hope, and do not do not make your professional life also suffer because of that, I would say. I'm being too practical about it, but then it is how it is. I would want that the coming 15 days, maybe, you can compartmentalize your professional life. It's different. The 5 hours I'm going to study, and this is how it is, irrespective of what is happening around me. It is easier said than done, but this is what it is. And this is what I would have done had I been in your place, right? So I hope our mental levels are high. And if our motivational levels are high, then we can move on to the technical aspects of it. And also, trust me, like I said, it's easy to clear this paper. Just for the coming 10 hours, you have to really put that effort to understand what exactly the examiner is expecting from you in this paper, and try and prepare in that particular direction. If you do that, even if you are not that great, if your preparation is not that great as of now, you can still clear the paper with flying colors. That's a promise, right? Because this, I have seen a lot of students, okay? I've seen two categories of students. One who have, struggled day and night, they've studied models after models. They probably know everything in the 24 chapters and have still failed. And people who really do not know all the 24 chapters, they've just, okay, taken an overview of that, but they have managed to clear the paper. The only difference is that understanding that this is not your routine paper, you're not supposed to memorize and write, but you are supposed to understand what the examiner is expecting and giving the examiner exactly that. If you do that, then we are taken care of, and you do not have to even worry about failing the paper, right? So if the motivational levels are up, we can move on to the technical part of it. Thank you, Syed. I'm really happy to hear that. Perfect, Isha. Great, Ramakrishnan. Very happy to hear that. Nimisha is all set. Perfect. Perfect. Now we are going to be moving to the technical part of it. Perfect, Darren. Then we're going to start with the technical part. And of course, this is something that you have to remember. If you believe in yourself, only then will you be able to clear the paper. And, I'll just tell you a small thing about myself, that, even though there are times when I'm not prepared for certain things, when I'm not prepared for certain exams, when I'm not prepared for, let's say, a particular event in my life, but I always have this thing in my mind that I can do it, I will manage, I'll do it. Or, like in Three Idiots, no matter what happens, all is well. That kind of positive mindset is really needed. If you are approaching this paper only saying that, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know if I want to do ACCA or not, please do not, just keep those thoughts out of your head. As of now, you really can do it. Okay, and I just don't say this for pep talk or anything, but because I teach this subject, and because I'm going to give you all the tricks and tactics to clear this subject, you have to leave that on me and just count on me when I say that you can do it. Okay. Okay, now we are moving to the technical parts. Guys, trust me, the coming 3 slides, these are more important than your technical parts also, that we will be reading later in the day today and in the coming lectures also. But according to me, these 3 slides are very important. And here only I'll be telling you how you have to attempt this paper. Okay, if you understand all these points, please note these points down also, because you have to constantly remind yourself about how you're supposed to answer this paper. So for the coming 20 minutes, when we go through these points, please make sure that you're taking it seriously, or understanding everything that is expected from you. Okay, the first thing, since it's a professional level paper, guys, honestly, you are no longer assumed to be a student. When I'm checking your answer sheet, when I'm the examiner, I'm checking your answer sheet, I'm thinking that this is coming from a person who will be at a managerial post, or who will be at a big post in the years to come. So I'm not just assessing you as a student, I'm assessing you on your professional skills also. So please stop answering like a student. What do I mean when I say that, there's a difference between answering as a student and answering as a professional? When, like I currently am presenting like a professional, I'm not going to fill you up with unnecessary information, right? So I have to deliver a lecture, I have to finish the 2 hours for today, right? A student based approach would be what? When the student is appearing for the exam, you would just think about how to fill in those 2 hours, right? Like how you think about how to fill in that answer sheet. That has to change. Today, when I'm coming to this lecture, my aim is not to fill these 2 hours. My aim is to give you as much as I can in these 2 hours. My aim is to add as much value as I can to the preparation of yours. So that is your aim. When you're answering the paper also, you have to do some value add in your answers. Please do not focus on filling up the answer spaces. That mindset has to go. You are a professional, you have to answer professionally. Now, what do I mean by answer professionally? So you are a professional, and that should reflect in the way you answer. Now, how will that reflect in the way you answer? First thing is, you have to avoid duplication of points just to fill the answer space. Please do not do that. And beating around the bush. You will get maximum marks when you are as precise and as to the point as possible. Okay, so make sure that you are not just, doing that active passive voice that we used to do before, right? Also, I'm going to keep checking the chat box also, so in case you have any doubts, right? Ramakrishna has a question. Okay, good question. He's saying answers in the exam kit are very big and all points are explained. Being precise means more bullet points. Even the theory are explained in the answers. See, this is something that I wanted to talk about later, but since it has come up, I'll talk about it right now. Firstly, the exam kit is exhaustive. Okay. So whatever points you could possibly think of in a situation have been put down in the exam kit, right? So firstly, please do not get carried away by that. I think that is one point also in the slide, right? So lot of students, they come up to me, they tell me that, ma'am, exam kit mein to there are so many things. How can we match up to that quality of the answer, everything? You are not supposed to also. You're not supposed to match the exam kit quality of answer. That is practically impossible. Why? because that is exhaustive. They are covering everything possible. So not supposed to match that level also. Don't get intimidated by the exam kit. That is the first thing. Right. The second thing is, Ramakrishna, when I say that you have to be precise, is, for example, instead of writing something in long answers that she is beautiful and smart and cute, etc., you can write she has a good personality. That is a professional and precise answer. She is cute and beautiful and smart and intelligent. That is a student level answer, which we do not want. That is what I mean by being precise. Using less words to express more is being precise, right? So that is what is expected out of you. Does not mean that you do not explain your points. Of course, you have to give well-defined points in your answers. But what I mean to say is you do not have to duplicate the points. You do not have, once if you've mentioned something, let it be. Like, earlier we used to do that active passive thing. Just to fill in the page, I would write one sentence, next sentence I would just convert that into a different language and do that. Please refrain from doing that in the SPL paper. And we are so used to this. We are so used to attempting papers like this that we cannot really change it overnight. That is why I want you to give the mock also, right? You cannot just, okay, now I'm not going to, focus on filling up the pages. It is ingrained in us that we want long answers. So that kind of becomes difficult, but you have to bring in that change. I hope that answers your query.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am. One last thing, ma'am. Is it like after we mention a point, we take scenarios from the case study and actually exaggerate, like, lengthen the point, right? Like after we write one point, we actually take it. That is actually included as normal. That is treated as normal, right? That is not extra, something which is treated as extra, right? That is okay. It's not active, passive and all, right?
Yeah. That is something that is required to substantiate your points. So that
But
is
the thing
definitely.
is that I heard somewhere that if you take the points from the case study and write, you don't get marks on that or something. Like it's, I've been told that you should not write directly what is written in the case study, but if you write just like that, then you won't get the marks or something. I've heard like that. Is that true or not?
No, and I think just the opposite of that. You have to pick up text from the case study, and you have to kind of show that you've understood the case and interpret that and use in your answers. So you have to pick up the relevant part of the exhibits that you think are relevant to the requirement and use that in your requirement. That is a way of fetching marks that is nowhere going to lose the marks at all.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Side is saying, I believe most of the aspirants are terrified due to the answers seen in the exam kit. I can completely understand. That's why I'm saying, guys, you all just think of this, okay? Exam kit is the content providers. They have worked over the years, and not just one person, multiple people have worked over the years to develop that kind of content, right? And it is a book. This is to help all the professional people who are appearing for this paper. It would be stupid to even expect students to be writing that level of paper. It is not expected, trust me. Take it from me, you are not expected to match that level. Okay, all you are expected to do is be professional. Whatever points you are giving, those should be logical. Obviously, those should be technical. You cannot be writing layman's language because you are a professional. If you are in a board meeting, you cannot be writing, not talking about share value, etc. Right? You cannot be talking in layman terms. You have to talk in technical terms. All that is there, but please do not get carried away by the exam kit. Don't get terrified. I have been in the system for long. I'm telling you what exactly is expected out of you. It is stupid to expect from a student that he will write that level of an answer in 4 hours when you're supposed to read so much and answer so many requirements. Trust me, that is not an expectation. So why are you worrying about the something that is not even there? That expectation is not even there from you. So why are you worrying about that? Right? Do not worry about that. Khalida is saying, I haven't done the entire exam kit. Should I complete it? So guys, from now on, I would advise that instead of doing small questions or focusing on particular areas, so exam kit, you all know how it is, right? So questions are based on strategy, questions are based on leadership. So what happens is, if you follow the exam kit, then you are kind of focusing on a particular area. My recommendation at this point in time would be, not to focus on specific small areas, but focus on the entire paper, entire syllabus. So according to me, instead of trying to complete the exam kit, if you can solve more past paper questions, if you can solve more mock papers, that is going to be a better value addition at this point in time than finishing the exam kit. It's okay. How much ever you've done doesn't really matter. Like I said, you don't have to clear you don't have to do the entire exam kit to clear the paper. That is not the rule, right? You have to be very smart in your decisions. You have to be very smart in your approach to be able to clear the paper. Right? Okay, thanks, Khalida. Isha is asking, are we supposed to read our study text completely? I've completed the exam kit and technical matters, but still feel that I don't know some areas. Isha, and everyone for that matter, from now on, you're not even going to touch the study text. And I think whoever has studied SBL from me, I do not focus a lot on the study text. So at this point in time, you can still go to the exam kit, but nobody is going back to the study text. And if you don't know some areas, it's completely okay. Maybe you can go to the study text for that particular area. For example, if you don't remember what the BCG matrix is, just go to the exam kit, and don't even go to the exam kit, just Google it and see and get done with it instead of, trying to find it in the exam kit. Or go to the pocket notes. Even your pocket notes are quite detailed if you look at it. It's a good summary of the chapters. If you want, you can go to that. But, opening those 1200 pages at this point of time, I will really not recommend. And that is not needed also, honestly. Like, that is not what the examiner is looking at. Not looking at whether you know PESTEL or not. You're looking at whether you can apply PESTEL or not. Right? So this is a thumb rule. Nobody is going to look at the study text also at this point in time. Okay. Said is asking, never referred the pocket notes. Does it contain all the models? It contains most of the models. Yeah. Like the relevant ones are there. Right? So that is there. And then we have, just a second. Okay, Darren is asking, yes, ma'am, the kit is a little bit complicated. I think in a written based, we have to write a lot compared to the online way of answering. We do not have the flexibility, I guess, in typing paragraphs. Could you please brief on the maximum number of points that would be required for depending on marks? Good question. So the best part about this paper is And okay, remind me to show you the marking inside also today itself. After this slide, I'll show that to you. You know, when the examiners are given the marking scheme, like how in normal exams, what happens is that if these points are there, then this mark is, you know, this certain number of mark has to be allotted. That is the marking scheme that is normally given. In SPL, what happens is the entire exhaustive answer is given to the examiner, right? And then the marking scheme is such that if the student writes one well-defined point. Now, what do I mean by one well-defined point? Like one bullet point which is substantiated with logic. It is a logical point. It fits in the answer. It is very well related to the case. If it is a logical point completely making sense, I will directly give you 2 marks for that. So for each logical point in your answer, you get 2 marks. So that kind of gives you a fair idea. So if, for example, if it's a 15, 16 marks question, I would expect you to write 8 to 9 well-defined points. 8 to 9 well-defined points means that there should be no repetition. They should be independent, like they should be different. There should be no repetition, and you should not be beating around the bush. It should be individually well-defined point. So that is the mark to point correlation. 2 marks per valid point. It's like that. Right? Would you be teaching us how to plan the answers in the later section of the lectures? Yes, that is the target, but that would require cooperation from your end also. So I'll be giving you the question papers that I would expect you all to, you know, read and come. If you read and come, then we can, you know, plan and discuss the answer. But if you do not cooperate, then it would be unreasonable to expect that I can teach, you know, everything in 10 hours. So if you want that also, I am ready to do it, but will require cooperation, right? So whatever question papers are given to you, if you read and plan and come, it can be done. Not a big thing. Okay, Kevin is asking, what if there is a pestle model that doesn't have unique points? What do you mean by that? So pestle, no. So then this PESTEL becomes unique, no? These are the different points that you're going to see. What is the point of using models or reading about the models in the paper? Nobody is directly asking you what is the pestle model or what is the Porter's 5 forces. Nobody is asking you that. Then what is the aim of studying about these models? These are to structure your answers only properly, to help you give well-defined points. So let's say if you would not study pestle, then what would you do? You would write, you know, randomly the different points about the environment. Instead of that, you're using pestle that makes your answer better structured, better to look at, right? And more logically, you know, flowing. So that makes it different points. Don't worry about that. Also, guys, when I say, no, you cannot duplicate there. You cannot duplicate anywhere. But yeah, okay. Tell me if you mean this. So if let's say one thing is fitting one part of the case study is fitting in two areas of your points, in two of your points, then will that be a repetition? No, you can use it. Okay, so that is allowed. I think if Darren is saying, I think if we don't remember a model, it's best not to mention it and go ahead with what we think is the correct way. Guys, even if you remember the model, you don't have to mention it. I thought you all know this. You are not supposed to mention the models in your exam. See, just take it this way. We are professionals. We are in a board meeting. Okay. We are discussing a particular issue, let's say a strategy about our company as to how to take it forward, right? Will you talk? So let's say we are talking about the growth strategy. Just a quick heads up. Does everybody know about the Ansov's matrix here? Ansov's matrix?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
If you are in a board meeting, do you think you will mention that according to the Ansov's matrix, we have 4 ways in which we can grow our company, market penetration, product development? Will you do that? Or as a professional, you will say that according to me, the best strategy is going to be product development, and directly talk about what product development is and which product are you trying to develop? What will you do? First or second?
Second.
Right. Please think of it as that. Okay. You are supposed to, exactly, everybody is saying second. So please do not mention Ansov's matrix or Pestle or anything in your answers. You're not supposed to do that. You all are professionals. You are just supposed to use that model, like I said, to structure your answers better and to bring in some technicality in your answer, to use words like product development, market penetration, etc. But do not write according to the Ansov's matrix, because when you do this, you are becoming a student and answering in a student-like approach. But what are you expected to do? You're expected to be a professional. You're in a professional setting, right? You're not going to be mentioning the models. Ma'am, we're not supposed to write who proposed the model, not even that. Not even that. Right? Like BCG is Boston Consulting Group. You're not supposed to write who proposed the model also.
I think the problem is that every time I do a question in the exam kit, when you look back at the answer, the way they start is because first they explain the model and then they explain it through the case. So every question is like that. So then I have a preconceived notion in my mind that before you start answering, you have to first explain the model and then you have to connect it with the case. So that was the problem which I got clear right now.
You can directly use the model to connect with the case. You do not have to focus on explaining the model. That is not even going to give you any marks. So that is just the waste of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do name the model and get the idea. Correct. I do understand how that is. And, like, I don't blame them also, because this, at this point in time that, okay, you are not supposed to write the models. But if they don't mention the models in the answer kit, then how will you understand the answer also? You will not know where it's coming from. So that is the reason they are mentioning that in the answer, but you don't have to bother about it. Right? So that is there, guys. I hope a lot of your doubts are getting cleared at this point in time, and it's very, very important. Trust me, I'm fine with you not knowing the Ansov's matrix altogether. You can trust me, still clear the paper. But if you mess up in these points, if you do not know how to attempt the paper, then no matter what, like I told you, I have students who have done the 24 chapters and failed, and I have students who have not really gone into the details. They know things, they don't know some things also, but they were smart enough to clear the paper. And I hope everybody wants to fall in that second category, right? Okay. One more question, ma'am. Don't you think using name of model makes our answer more effective and gives the marker an impression that we know this model? See, when you write that model, the mark, you have to give enough credit to the examiner that the examiner has years of experience. He will get to know whether you know something or do not know something, irrespective of whether you write the name or not. See, I'm not telling you that writing the name of the model is going to deduct, like you're going to lose your marks because of that. That is not going to happen, but you're not going to gain any marks. So if you're thinking that, oh, that will give the examiner a good impression, okay, oh, I know the model and everything, that doesn't happen. I'm just clearing that bubble, because I do not just need you to know that model. I do not just, as an examiner, I just don't need you to know the Ansov's matrix. That is okay. That is expected. Matlab, that is a given, that if you're appearing for a strategic level paper, you know that. So that is not going to get you any brownie points. What is going to get you the brownie points is whether you're able to apply that model to the given case or not. And for that, you don't have to give me the name. You just have to show me the application. If it's done correctly, I'm going to give you the marks. Right? So it is just one level higher than what you're thinking. Right? Perfect. So perfect. Great. So this is there. We've done the second point. I'm moving on to the next one. No scattergun approach. You have to follow a systematic and logical approach to answer. Cannot stress on this point enough. But all your answers have to be logically structured. Like when you say point A, so from point A, the B point should flow until and unless obviously it's independent. I'm not saying that, but A, hence B, hence C, hence D. If your answer is flowing in that order, it's going to be wonderful. You know, and why is it difficult to do that? Why is it difficult to follow a logical approach? Because like I said, we have been used to a certain way of answering the paper. So as soon as we get the paper, we are given a 10 minutes reading time, we read it and we start answering. And now when we start writing, while writing, we are thinking. So when you've written a point, then you think, oh, I can write this also. Then you write that. Then you think, oh, I can write this also, and you write. That is the way you've been operating, functioning till now. But what has to change at this point in time is that you have to plan your answers properly. You know, you have to think about what your answer, what is the broad structure of your answer, what all are you going to include in your answer before you even start typing the answers. That is the next point also. You have to plan your answers before you type the answers. So in the initial 40 to 60 minutes that you're getting, you know, first slide, the initial 40 to 60 minutes to read the paper, that is not just reading time. If you remember, I've written reading and planning time. So you're planning your answers also in that particular time. Now for you guys, it's easier. Why? Because it's a computer-based exam. So if you think that a particular answer is not making sense, you can still do some cut, copy, paste and, you know, bring some sense into your answer. So this used to matter a lot when it was offline and you had to write and everything. Then you cannot cut your answer. That doesn't look good, right? So that this point was more relevant then, but I would still say that you should plan your answer. Nimisha is saying, I don't understand about planning answers. See, when I read the requirement, instead of just starting to write the answer, I need to plan what all points am I going to include in this. Is there a specific model that I want to use in this particular answer? Which model am I going to use? For example, in external environment analysis, I have 3 models with me: Pestle, Potter's 5 forces, Potter's diamond. Do I need to use any model? Which model am I going to use? Okay, what points am I going to write and in what order? For example, competition, there are 2 competitors there that are given. What am I going to write about those 2 competitors? Am I going to write in terms of market share? Am I going to write in terms of price? What are these points going to be about is what you're going to plan before you even start writing your answer, right? If you remember, those who have attended the SBL sessions, you know how we used to plan our answers when we did the question papers also. We used to link the questions, the requirements to the exhibits. Even that is a part of planning your answer. That is, you link the requirement to the exhibits and then pick up the relevant points to that requirement. So is that clear? I think Nimisha asked, no? Nimisha, is planning answers clearer now? You will understand better when we actually do it, when we actually solve the papers, but that was a fair idea. And this is very important. Relevant and specific points instead of commenting in general. Okay? So you have to make specific points that are related to the case instead of commenting in general. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say in your particular case, the sales of your company, the company that is given, the sales have come down. So last year they were high. In the current year, the sales have come down. Okay. Now, let's say you're required to make a report elaborating why the sales have gone down and the strategies to improve sales. Right. Now, instead of writing general points, like, for example, there might be inflation, right? That is the reason this has happened, or something that is not given in the study text and that makes sense in general. So why will sales come down generally? Let's say if there's a competitor, so you can write in the answer that a new competitor might have entered the market and that is the reason the sales have gone down. Instead of commenting in general, what is important and what is going to fetch marks? The general point that I just mentioned is never going to fetch marks, but a specific point which is given in the case study is going to fetch marks. For example, in the financial statements wala exhibit, you can see that the sales have come down. And in, let's say, some other exhibit where they're explaining about the company and the industry that the company is operating in, they have mentioned that there are some cheap imports in the current year. Okay, so imports have become cheaper. What will be the specific correlation that you can make here? That, oh, the sales have come down, and a good enough reason might be because imports are cheaper. So people or my customers are switching to imports, and that is the reason my sales have come down. So if you make specific and relevant points that are given to you in the case, that is going to fetch the marks, instead of you thinking about something of your own and mentioning. कि अच्छा ये हो चुका होगा, so this might have happened and so the sales have come down, not going to get you the marks, right? So you have to stay as close as possible to the case that is given to you. Jitna you move away from the case and try to give your own gyan, you know, your own ideas or your own thoughts on that, utna you're going to go away from clearing the paper also, trust me, and utna away from getting the right kind of marks also. Stay as close as possible to the case. Try to pick up the relevant information from all the exhibits. Try to interlink the information and make some sense out of it, right? Okay, Saeed has a question. Just a question, if the question revolved around 2020, where a new entrant is there in the industry and had to shut down business in late 2020, should we assume COVID has been there without them even stating? I don't think so. No. You should not assume that that is there. You should only assume, you're not even assuming, you should only take up the information that is there when they've said that a new entrant is there in the industry and that is why the business had to shut down. So just because, so see, in 2020 COVID was there, but you do not know, and you know, you do not have to assume that it's a real life thing, right? So this is just a case study that is given to you. You do not have to apply the COVID situation to that unless and until they have mentioned specifically. Do not mention it at all. Okay, so general knowledge you do not have to, general trends you do not have to apply to that. Guys, am I still audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So very, very important, guys, these points. Okay. You have to plan your answers. You have to follow a systematic approach. You should be professional in the way you are answering and refrain from making general points and go on to making more specific points. Right? Shall I move on to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Next. Apply case information and exhibits. Cannot emphasize on this enough. I was talking about this in the previous slide also. Stay as close as possible to the exhibits, right? So, you know, when I tell you that this paper is very easy to clear, one of the reasons why is also because whatever you need to write in your answer is already there in the question paper. Do you understand what that means? You have a 14-page long question paper, but all the information is there. It's more like, and trust me, it is actually more like an open book exam where you just have to pick up the relevant parts of that particular case and the exhibits and apply that to your answer. So you have to pick up the relevant parts of that and just use that in your answers. So even if, so that is why, you know, even if you do not have a lot of predefined knowledge, do not, you know, push it also, that you can just go wake up and go and give the SBL paper. It's not that also. You cannot push it to that extent also. But all I mean is, like in other papers, like in audit, you need to know, you know, the corporate governance rules. You need to know the ethical principles, etc. Here, what is more important is whether you are able to apply the case related knowledge to those areas or not. So that is why it becomes easier in this kind of a paper, right? Then you have to use common sense. The models are useful, but you would not talk about a model in most cases in a professional setting. This we've already discussed. This is important. Adopt the role assigned to you in the requirement. Now, at this point in time, I'm hoping that you guys have done some question papers. You've seen some question papers for yourself. And if you have done that, you would see that all the requirements have, some roles that you're required to take up. Okay, so you have to adopt that particular role. And that is very important. Okay, don't just take it as as is. So for example, if you are the CEO of the company, if that is the role that has been assigned to you, then your mode of communication or your tone of communication will be different. Then you will have a more authoritative tone. If you're writing, let's say, a report, or you are presenting to the board as the CEO, that will be different than, let's say, a manager presenting to the board. Obviously, right? The communication tone is going to be different, and that you have to gauge from the role that has been assigned to you. So the professional skills marks are going to be assessed on this basis as well, as to whether you're able to adopt the role that is given to you or not. Sometimes you will be the external auditor, sometimes you will be the internal auditor, you'll be a part of the management, you'll be, maybe a customer also at times, CEO, CFO, chairman, whatever role is given, think of yourself as being in that role and accordingly answer. You have to also know your audience, whether you are writing to the board of directors. If you're writing to the board of directors, your tone is going to be different. If it's to the shareholders, if it's to the customers, to whoever it is, you have to make sure that you adopt the role and you understand how you're supposed to communicate as well. Pay attention to the verbs used. This is very important, guys. Pay attention to the verbs used in the requirements, which most of y'all would not be doing till now. In the requirements, it is very clearly mentioned whether you're required to discuss something, you're required to list something down, whether you're required to evaluate the strategic options, or you're just required to mention the advantages and disadvantages. Please make sure that you are paying attention to the verbs. If they are saying list something, please just list that and do not focus a lot on evaluating that, because marks are going to be assigned on listing and not evaluating. Not that you will lose marks on that, but you will lose your time on that, which you can maybe utilize someplace else and get the marks that are required. So from now on, when you're reading the requirement, please read the verb that they are using. If they're asking you to analyze something, or just asking you to mention the advantages, disadvantages, and strictly adhere to the requirement. There will be times when you know more than what the examiner is asking. Okay? That happens all the time. And you will have this temptation to write more. But please control yourself at that point in time and think that the marks are going to be for this only. So even if I'm writing something extra, this, like I said in the beginning, this is not about filling up pages. So not going to get any marks. Why bother? Invest your time somewhere else. So I hope you will be logical as I'm expecting you to be, right? And don't get carried away, because there will be times when you will want to answer more, but you have to control yourself at that point in time. Right? Use short sentences and break down your answers clearly. Like I said, the examiner, especially, so if I'm checking your exam paper, I honestly will get irritated if you use long sentences. If your sentence is not ending only. So you're writing this and this, so, hence, therefore, very irritating. Don't do that. I will expect you all to be professional. So this is the statement, hence this is the conclusion. Be that precise. Now don't take it as not defining your answers. Please define your answers, elaborate your answers properly, but do not elongate your answers unnecessarily. There is a difference between the two, right? And I hope everybody is understanding that. Don't tell me that, oh, ma'am, you said please write small points, so I just wrote pointers and came. Don't do that. You'll fail the paper, right? Professionally, you have to explain. If you're giving me a point, you have to give a logic to that. You have to explain the point clearly. That is not what I mean. But do not give me unnecessary information, right? You're not required to mention the name of the model. This is not an all or nothing approach. This is important, guys. A lot of students tell me that, ma'am, let's say pestle model hai, lekin in the case, there is no information on legal environment and no information on economic environment. Can I still use the pestle model? Of course you can. Don't write about the legal environment. Don't write about the economic environment. As simple as that, right? It is not an all or nothing approach that if you have all aspects of the model, only then you can use the model and otherwise you can't. Like I said, it is to structure your answers better. So even if I just use political, environmental, social, like that, even then it is going to structure my answer properly only. The information that I don't have, how am I supposed to create that information, right? So even if there are some parts that are missing, you can still use the model. It is not an all or nothing approach. One more thing, common query that I get is whether I should use only one model, or let's say for external environment, we have multiple models. So what do you suggest? I should use only one model or two models or 3, 4, how much ever I know, should I use it? Again, you can use mix of models also, but a recommendation from my side would be to use one or at max 2 models at a particular time. If you're mixing the 2 models also, you have to use those 2 models only. The reason is, if you start bringing in 3, 4 models in the picture, it gives an impression that you are confused. You don't know what to do, so you have probably done everything that you could. We don't want that sort of an impression. We want an impression that we know what we are doing. We are very clear-headed. We know exactly what the examiner wants, and this is what I'm giving. And according to me, using 2 models together would give a better picture. That is the only reason I'm using 2 models, not that I'm confused between the 2. Right? So 1 or 2 models, if you go beyond that, unnecessarily confuse, gives an impression that you're not very clear in your head. Right? So keep that in mind. Use models to structure your answers properly and to bring in some technicality in your answers. This point cannot emphasize on this enough. The financials are there for a reason. Usually in your SBL paper, there are 6 exhibits. One of them is going to be quantitative. One of them is going to give you details about how the business is performing, etc. They are there for a reason. The examiner is expecting you to do some sort of an analysis on the financials. I'll break it down into 2 parts. and what kind of analysis is expected from you. Pay good attention to this. I'm going to take the same example wherein the revenue, remember, was falling in the current year. So from the last year, it's falling in the current year. Okay. Now, I'm giving you examples of a good analysis and a bad analysis. If you tell me in your analysis that the revenue is falling in the current year, hopeless analysis. This is something that I'm giving you. This is something that I told you, right? When I gave the information in a table, or let's say in the form of financial statements about last year and current year, and I'm telling you last year it was 600, this year it's 500. I've given you this information that the revenue is falling. You are again writing the same thing, that the revenue is falling. Zero value addition, 0 points for this, and hopeless analysis not expected from a professional. So what are you required to do? There are two types of analysis that I would expect any professional student to do. The first thing is do some sort of a ratio analysis. I have told you that the revenue is falling. You can tell me by how much percentage is the revenue falling. That I've not given you, right? So you can calculate the percentage decrease in the revenue and say that the revenue is falling by 8%. That is a good analysis. You have done some sort of a value addition to what I gave you. This is the first, and obviously this was just an example. You can perform more ratio analysis. For example, return. Before I forget this, please make sure that some basic ratios you remember and you kind of make it a habit only to calculate those ratios in the exam. Okay, I'll just tell you and you can maybe note it down. And these are basic ratios that you should remember and try and calculate in the exam whenever you get a chance. So gross profit, net profit, operating profit. So all these are margins: gross profit margin, net profit margin, operating profit margin, right? Profitability ratio, return on capital employed, return on equity, if it's given separately, return on equity, right? Any other profitability ratio you think I'm missing out, which we have done in the class?
Gearing.
Return on investment.
Return on capital employed. Return on capital employed, return on investment is the same thing, no?
Yeah, asset turnover is efficiency, right? Not profitability, no?
Yeah. I think pretty much about the profitability, right? And of course, the increase and decrease of all these. So you all already know the increase, decrease, you take the old year quantity minus the new year quantity divided by the old year to find out the percentage change, right? Then we move on to the gearing ratios. Gearing are also very important. You have debt to equity ratio. You have capital gearing ratio. You have interest coverage ratio, very important. Interest coverage is very important. Anything else for gearing?
Do we mention operational gearing?
Not really. I think this much also should be fine, right? These are the basic ratios that I think you should kind of calculate some place or the other in your answer to show that you know and to do some sort of an analysis. So wherever it fits, try to find out these ratios and use them. Okay. So this is the first type of analysis that I would expect you to do. The second type of analysis is qualitative. So basically giving reasons or substantiating the fall or rise with a reason that is given in the exhibit. Like I took the example before, in let's say the second exhibit, when they were telling me about the company, where the company is operating, what does the company do, etc., etc., they mentioned that this year there were cheap imports. Then I go down to the fourth exhibit, I see that the revenue is falling. Nowhere will they mention in the entire case that these two are interrelated. But this is your common sense, no? That if the revenue is falling, I can see it here, and I read somewhere that there were cheap imports. Obviously, there is a direct correlation between the two. That if there are cheap imports, then people are going to switch to those cheap imports, and my revenue is going to fall. So this is the second type of analysis that I would expect you to do. That is interlink the fall in revenue with the reasons to that fall in revenue. So when you are analyzing the financials, first, you're performing some ratio analysis, and second, you're giving me reasons for increase or decrease in whatever has happened. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
This you all know there is no right answer. If you can give me logical answers with well-defined points, that is the correct answer. So like I said, the marking scheme is each logical points a point 2 marks. So if you're giving me logical point, I'm giving you 2 marks. There is no, like when you're given the strategy evaluation also, strategy A is this, strategy B is this. The answer key that we get is not going to mention that the student should write strategy A is only the best. No, if you can give me reasons as to why strategy A should be adopted, well-defined reasons, well-supported reasons with logic that is given in the text, that is correct. If you can give me logic for why strategy B is best, strategy B also can be, adopted, right? And the last point I already explained, please do not get carried away with the exam kit answers. It is something that is non-existent, okay? If you are expecting yourself to raise to that level, you are unnecessarily doing that. That is not an expectation from you guys. So don't bother about what is not being expected from you and unnecessarily stress yourself out for no reason. Correct? So these 3 slides, guys, cannot emphasize on how important this is, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't use it correctly for this paper, we'll not be able to clear this paper. Right? So now I'll be talking about what I want you to do from now on. But before that, if there are any questions about how to write or anything that is coming up in your mind, you can ask. Said is saying, as yes, ma'am, as long as the points are backed up with logic and evidence, there's nothing to worry, I assume. Absolutely. Absolutely, Said, nothing to worry. Isha is saying, what else are we supposed to explain in a question when they ask to analyze performance in both financial and non-financial? So financial performance, like I said, you'll do these ratio analysis, you'll do the, you'll find out the increase and decrease also. So last year it was how much, current year how much. So that will be your financial analysis. So whether it's increase, decrease, etc. Non-financial analysis can be your goodwill, customer satisfaction, whether the customers are coming back to buy from you or not. All that will be mentioned. The green consumers, if you're contributing to the environment, the green consumers will be happy. That is the non-financial analysis. So if that is given, you mention that. So that will be the non-financial analysis part of it. right? Any other questions, guys?
Ma'am, I have not actually studied the non-financial performance models. It's actually done in the PM. We have these two models, right? Building blocks, like some this thing, a balanced scorecard, and we have this Mintzberg, some this for non-financial information. Is that actually necessary in SBL for explaining non-financial? Do I have to like learn that model again? For
Not really.
okay.
Not really. If you want, you can just go through the model for better understanding. And if if you can use that model in your answer, but it's really not, because from what I have seen, the non-financial analysis is usually unique. It is case to case basis. So some case will tell you that this particular company is taking care of the environment, taking care of the green consumer. So anyway, you have to pick up from the case only. So it anyway does not matter whether you know it or not, because it is usually going to be unique to that particular case. But like for financial, you have to know the gross profit margin, the net profit margin. Like that, it's not needed for your non-financial analysis.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Kali is asking, can we use Excel to show the practical part of financial analysis? Why not?
Do we get marks for calculating the ratios?
Yes, you do.
So just by doing the calculations and mentioning the percentages in the Excel part of the sheet, examiner will give us marks, right? Like,
But backed with why the increase or decrease.
okay, so you have to mention both, but still you get some marks for writing the calculations, right?
Yeah, you get marks. So for financial analysis, for example, if the question is of 10 marks or something, financial and non-financial analysis, they'll usually cap let's say your calculation for 4 to 5 marks. They'll keep for calculation. So if you've done all that calculation, you'll get the 4 to 5 marks. Isha is asking, questions on variance analysis and decision tree important. Honestly, this is just one paper where we can't really see and we can't foresee, which questions are important, which are not important. Decision tree, though, I would say not really. But variance analysis, I would say you should. Variance analysis is definitely important. It's basically analyzing why there is a variance between what you budgeted and what actually happened. So that is important. Decision tree, I don't think so.
In variance analysis, do I have to go back and remember all the formulas for like to find all the different types of variances, or just and the theory of that is enough? Why the variance is there? Do we actually get a variance report and we have to say what's wrong, or do we have to calculate the variance?
Both types of questions are asked, Ramakrishna. You might be required to calculate also, and they might also calculate and ask you for reasons. So both types of questions have been asked before, and I think you should prepare for both of them. So you should be able to calculate the variance. Variance calculation is easy only. Nimisha is saying, ma'am, sometimes there are questions related to big data and technology where we are expected to tell how can they use these to grow. Where are we supposed to take inputs from our side or case itself? That has to be a mix of both. From whatever I have seen about big data analytics and technology questions, they do not really give a lot of information in the text. So first choice, first bet would be take inputs from the case. But usually there is not adequate information, and they are expecting you to tell ways or tell ways in which we can use big data analytics for a particular company. So see, okay, let's just make this distinction. There'll be different types of questions. Okay, now one where you have to directly pick up, you have to interlink the different exhibits of the case. right? So that time I want you to stay as close as possible to the case. But there'll be some times and some questions when the examiner will want your viewpoints, where the examiner will want you to come up with some new strategy. So in that point in time, you're not going to pick up from the case. You're going to come up with your individual strategy. So even this big data analytics and whatever questions I have seen, it usually asks that for this particular company, how can you use big data analytics, right? So obviously that information is not given because they are asking you. So then that has to come from your knowledge about big data analytics. That's when, you know, the 24 chapters that you've studied comes into picture. Right? Okay, I am going to do a 10 minutes Q&A also. So don't worry. It's, I think, 8 more minutes to go, and then we can do a 10 minutes Q&A. So just hold on to your questions till then, right? Isha, I can see your question. I'll take it up after 8 minutes, right? Okay. Now, what do I want you to do from now on? Okay. First, do not look at the study text. Second, as far as possible, do not look at the exam kit also. Try to focus more on the overall approach. So what do I want you to do from now on? Like I said, at least 2 mock papers. Now, how many ever you do, it's going to add only. I'm just saying at least I want you to do 2 mock papers, right? Then have you guys read about the examiner's report that is there on the ACCA website?
I've actually planned to read it after doing the necessary questions. Like if every past paper question, there's an examiner's report. So I thought after doing that question, then writing my own answer, then I thought I would actually read that question, like a report, so it would be more helpful. Like that's what I thought.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you. And that's what I would want you to do also. So the 2 mock papers, instead of mock papers, you can attempt the past papers also, right? And when you attempt those past papers, for those past papers only, you have to mandatorily read the examiner's report that is given in your ACCA website. Now, what does it tell you? What is there in the examiner's report is it's very important, guys. And I would say for the last 4 attempts, you should quickly go through it. It might be a lot at this point in time, but maybe 2-3 attempts, I think you should definitely go through. What does it tell you is where the students are performing well and where the students are lacking and where the examiners are unhappy, in which area. So this is basically learning from others' mistakes, and you can improve your performance by understanding where others are going wrong. Understanding? Right? So that you have to do, definitely you have to read the examiner's report for the past. If you can do 4 attempts, lovely. If you can't, maybe 2-3 attempts will also give you a fair idea about what are the strong areas generally in each attempt and where the students are still not doing well. And if you do well in that area, that is going to give you an edge over the other students. So examiner's report. Then guys, you know how much I love technical articles and how much I emphasize on them. If you have not still done it, please do it. Okay. There are technical articles given on the ACCA website. Why I emphasize on these a lot is because they are given topic wise. So you'll find one article on leadership, you'll find one article on governance. And usually in all these articles, this will have information from your study text only. And some obviously new information will be there, but most information will be something that you have already done. Then why am I telling you to read it when you've already done it? Because everything related to one topic comes under one head. So if you read the technical article on leadership, and if tomorrow I give you a question on leadership, you have exactly all information at one place. Your mind also is mapped properly and has all the information together. And then you can, see, okay, for leadership, which model do I want to use? Okay, ye bhi tha in the technical article, these were the different models that were there. And I think this will be the best model to use. If you do not read the technical article, your chapters are such, the 24 chapters, that, some part about leadership might be there in the first chapter, then in the 6th chapter, then in the 12th chapter. So there is no mapping that is there. And the technical articles map these different areas beautifully. So everything related to one topic comes under one head. So you read the article on leadership, it's fixed that, okay, under leadership, we have so and so that we can use, right? So make sure that you are reading the technical articles. So, you can maybe start by one article every day. If from now on also you do one article every day, you can finish all the technical articles also. Right? Then this is what I want you to do technically. Otherwise, this this is very important. Do things and talk to people who make you happy. Please avoid negativity in your life as of now. We do not have time for that. And you have to stay motivated. Do things that make you happy. When I used to prepare for my papers, I actually used to, I love dancing. So I would voluntarily take out that 1 hour every single day to release all my tension and stress from this, right? So pick that up. It can be reading a book, it can be walking, it can be running, whatever you like, do it. Okay, don't think that all the 24 hours or whatever it is you have to keep studying. That is a very wrong approach towards this. And you have to keep a clear head. Like I said, now is not the time to rush through the pages and try to fill yourself up with information. Don't do that. You'll burn yourself out. D-Day pe, you will not have any new ideas. You will not have a fresh mind. Instead, keep calm and do little. Do these 3 things that I've told you, honestly. There's nothing else that I want you to do also from now on. But yeah, what I would do if I was at a stage where I'm not that great, not that prepared with the paper, I'm at a so and so situation, what would I do? I would do 1 paper then every day. Okay, 1 paper every day, and analyze that paper also the same day. Read what the answers were, see what I did, read the examiner's report also, and maybe read 1 technical article. Okay? Some days I would be able to do all of this in 1 day. Some day I would be able to do all of this in 2 days, which is pretty much fine. If you can maybe solve 8 papers in 15 days also, it's a brilliant job. Right? So this is how I would go about it. And the rest of the time I would chill. I would just be very happy, keep my mind fresh and remain motivated, and not let thoughts like, can I do it? What will happen? And that anxiety and all, I would just keep away from that and just believe one thing, that I think is this, right? This is the bottom line, and this is what I would do had I been in your place, right? You can decide what you want to do, but yeah, this is a bit from my end. Right, it's 1:20. I'll take the questions that were left that I could not take. Okay. I'm taking Isha's question. But I haven't seen any question on variance calculation in exam kit. Is there any? As much I know from doing questions from exam kit, they only take difference of budgeted figures and actually explain the reason. Yeah, and that is what it is. Variance analysis is just seeing what the budgeted cost or sales was and what the actual was, and why was there a difference between the two. Did the environment change? Did the conditions around, did they change? Was there a technological change? Did my production shut down? Did I overestimate? What were the reasons? Just that. Nimisha is asking, ma'am, by doing past papers, will we be able to cover all the technical aspects of the syllabus? Now, this is not, I think, a question that I can answer. I mean, will we be able to cover all the technical areas of the syllabus? I mean, most of it, but not completely, because every paper cannot test leadership, strategy, governance, evaluation. All that cannot be tested in one paper. But as much as possible, yeah, it will give you a fair idea about the syllabus. The 5, Syed, do you mean the professional skills, communication, analysis, evaluation, is it? Let me know. Okay, the professional skills. So, okay. In the upcoming sessions, how are you going to take the revision, or what would be the revision like? Could you please tell me if we're going to have a question practice in the following days? So 2 people have asked this question. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a quick revision of the entire syllabus. That is your 24 chapters, a quick revision of the models, right? That I'll be doing the important models along with questions practice also, right? So yes, we will be doing questions for sure. That is very important. So that's how I'll be proceeding. I will be quickly doing the model, so that should happen in tomorrow, and max by Wednesday. We should be able to cover the entire 24 chapters, the important topics, the important models, and the last 2 days we can focus on the questions, right? This is my plan. Will you be telling us how many models we have to know and in which situation which models are applicable? I cannot tell you how many models you have to know. I mean, we will revise all the models, and that way you will know most of the models. But I will definitely tell you which models are applicable in which situation. That I'll tell you. Ramakrishnan, I will have to check. I'll have to check. Nimisha is asking, ma'am, will we be covering project management too? We'll try covering project management, although it's a completely different chapter. If there's anything, any doubt in specific about that chapter that you did not understand, you can ask me, right? Ramakrishnan, I'll check and let you know. Right? Any other questions, guys? All right, then let's wind up for the day, guys. Tomorrow we will start off. I'll tell you the marking insight also that I was talking about today. That I'll show you how the answers are marked. We'll start with the revision, right? And that's how it's going to be. Nimisha is saying, I find it difficult to answer related to project management. So if we can know what we can expect. Okay, we can talk about that. Darren, I just answered what we are going to discuss tomorrow. Right? All right, guys, this is it. Please stay motivated, prepare well, and I hope this was of help, the first session and the coming sessions also, actually. I hope you gain a lot of it, and it helps you in clearing the paper with flying colors, right?
Thank you.
I'll
ma'am.
see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.